Let's start a quick intro.
Apparently, I'm not a genius, though. Good to know. So you want me to start on who I am?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Antoniades. I run a small venture fund here in Toronto called Information Venture Partners. What Cindy was referring to was that we are the former principals of RBC Venture Partners. And last year we bought it. We raised a lot of money to buy the venture capital out of RBC and manage it now independently. And the reason I raised my hand about looking for money is I'm also raising money. We are raising a $100 to $125 million fund and are very, very close to getting that close, which is what Canada needs. So I've been a VC since 1997. I started my career in Silicon Valley in this industry, and was eventually I'm Canadian. Went down there. Eventually, I was recruited back, and I've been doing VC since then, as I said. What else would you like?
Upside Foundation.
You want me to talk about the Upside Foundation now?
Has anybody heard of Upside Foundation?
One hand in the back, yes. One lonely, lonely hand. We're not reaching the Chinese community. The Upside Foundation is a charity that I created to bring social responsibility to the tech community and the startup community. And it's a very simple concept. Instead of asking you for the two things that every charity asks you for, which is your time or your money, we ask you to share your upside, which means that we ask you to donate either options or warrants in your company. And by doing that hundreds of times with hundreds of different companies, when there are liquidity events, that results in millions of dollars back into the community. And in Israel, that has raised $14–15 million for charities in the local community. In Silicon Valley, it's raised more money than that. Even small centers like Denver, Colorado have raised several $1 million by having the entrepreneurs give back through a small donation of options or warrants in their companies. It's a great recruiting tool. Everybody who joins today in these companies wants to be part of a company that cares, that believes in something. You can build your culture around this. You can certainly use it as a networking tool. You can use it as a recruiting tool. It's a great thing. And there's, in fact, been 2 companies that have been able to raise money because they said they're part of our organization, because the angels who invested in them wanted to see them give back. So that's the Upside Foundation.
So, if I'm not mistaken, there's no actual cost to people who sign up?
Nothing. No,
right.
You actually benefit. You get events. We organize events. We organize CEO get-togethers. There's a Meet the VCs event where every major venture capitalist in Toronto will be there October 22nd. So it's, and we've now are partnered with Pledge 1%, which is the US equivalent, sponsored by the Salesforce Foundation. So if you're a member of that, you get events like Salesforce for Startups. You get to benefit from the activities that we have in the community.
So if you guys want to get Rob's term sheet and have him invest in your company or get his attention?
Frankly, always grown everywhere. Because really it's about institutions, so companies that specialize in funding and growing these companies, and that's what makes a VC a VC.
And I think there's a major distinction to be made between private equity and VC, and that VC in all forms is minority positions. There are.
What about angel money? What's the difference? Who is better? Angel money is better suited for whom, and VC money is better suited for whom? That's not a hard question.
So angel is, I'll take it. Here's, angel is ideal for the formative stages of the company. But there, before there is, in the stack, you have angel, you have seed, you have early stage, you have mid stage, you have late stage, you have growth stage. You have venture debt, you have mezzanine debt, you have private equity. Those are the kind of stacks, the ladders the steps in the ladder. Angel is just private money that is made available to companies at the very earliest stage, usually at the very earliest stage. And it is very good money because there's really no true governance around it. With venture capital money, you take the responsibilities that we require of you. We have responsibilities to our limited partners to return capital. We have to return that capital over a certain time frame. With an angel investor, it is usually an individual or a group of individuals who do it to support the entrepreneur and generally do not get involved or as involved as early stage VCs. And their bet is on you, and it's there to make money, and it is not time-based. There is no real institutional money behind it. So when you think about it, you have to think about the longevity of the investment, how long you want that investor. Angel money often cannot follow on. We have had plenty of companies that have been there for 10 years, and in every round we have participated. We have a company that just raised 75 million last week. There is no room for angels in those types of deals, and they will get diluted over time. The other thing is that angels generally invest in areas that they care about. So if you are a very successful retail, you will probably invest in a retail technology or an emerging retailer. And there is a chance that with the angel, and here's the downside of an angel, that they may actually want to come in and operate. They are successful entrepreneurs themselves that have this need for control, and that's a challenge because that's not the type of, generally not the type of capital you want, but that's the downside of having it. It's less onerous when it's done right, but it actually can be quite problematic if done wrong.
Okay, so angel comes first and then seed afterwards.
You're starting a business, and you have your concept, and you want to start the business and get it going. There's a question for you about what is the right capital for the opportunity that you're pursuing. And I guess the only thing that I'd add to that is that angel may also look for different types of opportunities. So venture capital and venture capital companies are typically, especially in the earlier stage, are really looking for opportunities where it can be a really big company fairly quickly. And some business opportunities fit that mold, most do not. And that doesn't mean that the ones that aren't worthy of financing, they're just worthy of different kinds of financing. So if you think about what opportunity you have and what you're looking to do, that also might be the lens that you look at what's the right type of financing for you. Because angels is really just another word for people's personal capital, and that means it's inherently extremely flexible. And so if you match an opportunity that works for that angel or a group of angels, then that can be great for your business because you may not be a fit for venture capital. So I think that's the other spin I think to think about.
Great. Okay, so we're gonna talk about how you guys vet deals, and then we're gonna do a role play with people who want to volunteer to do a pitch here. So start, doesn't matter who. Sure. How do you vet deals? You're keeping in mind your consumer enterprise tag and late stage. How do you vet deals?
So, there's a couple technical things where, being a late stage investor, you have committed, and this is again an institution where you've raised money from people to say, look, there's a great opportunity investing in X, X being a geography, a sector, a space, whatnot. And so you said, we're going to invest in that with your capital. Pledge your capital to us. We're going to be good stewards of your capital, but do it in this area. So, Tandem, which is where I am, we have a mandate to invest in later stage Canadian technologies. So, and like most venture funds, you have a space that's your sweet spot and what you're not. So, the very first, criteria is whether or not you fit that mandate that you promise to your investors that you're going to invest in or not. And so for us, that happens to be, we'd like to say kind of $10 million of revenue or more. We'll definitely bend that depending on the type of revenue. And then a technology which has been proven out. So if you're doing a science-based company, it's not the initial first ever construction of X. That's been done before. And it's really about taking a business risk. So the first thing is just that very basic do you fit or not the mandate that we've promised to our investors that we're going to invest in? And then once you get beyond that, it's really, I generally split things up into two buckets. For me, it's always the company and then the deal. And then, in the company, there's very much the people and the team, and then there's very much the opportunity set. And the opportunity set is really around the market, and then what uniquely you're bringing to the market. What are the insights that you have? What's a proprietary technology you have? What's a positioning? What makes you unfairly competitive against everybody else? So that's really the focus there, and then a good management team that's really, frankly, someone you want to work with over a long amount of time, and you think will similarly be very good stewards of your capital and to grow a business quite large. And then the second is the deal, and the deal is really important. There's valuation, which is kind of what everybody talks about, but frankly, there's other things where, like you said, there's partners. Right? Often you're investing in a certain percentage of the company that doesn't control it, and so the people you have to work with are critical to the success of the ultimate investment. And so the second part of it is really around analyzing that deal, the deal dynamic, the structure of the capital, et cetera, to figure out if it's something you actually just want to get involved with, or you better stay away, even if the company is interesting.
Conceptually, I agree. I mean, it is, he's right on. Marc's nailed it. Where I think there's a difference between early stage and what Tandem's doing, what Marc's doing, is that in our world, we are working with very little information. We will invest in companies that have no revenues. So generally our minimum threshold is about $1 million in revenue, but we can invest in companies pre-revenue. Even at $1 million in revenue, you don't have a company. There is no company there. General Electric has more than $1 million in revenue. RBC has more than $1 million in revenue. $1 million is a small business. And in technology, $1 million really isn't a lot. It might be a handful of customers, but those handful of customers serve a very important part of our process. We want to see how the customers are using the
activities are today, and that's what there's a gap in the market that we're trying to address.
And how are you going to go about getting, this is the sort of thing where $69 a month for a customer.
Yeah.
Presumably you got to share 40, 50, 30, a lot
Exactly.
of it with your partners. So you make a very small margin on everybody. So the only way to get big is to have huge.
So we have 30% margins right now, and we're also looking to expand into B2B territory. So looking at analytics solutions, marketing solutions for small businesses, which accounts for 99% of all employees in Canada, right? And we're also looking to offer like different kinds of solutions for parents. For example, if you have a child, it's difficult to keep them preoccupied, right? So having a lot of different revenue streams in order to counteract that fixed revenue we have.
So this is it's an evolution of Groupon. Groupon, which is a combination of Groupon and Shareable. So
That's a very good point.
I see the niche, and so what's the benefit of your partners? They're getting customers that they didn't get before.
That's one.
And then they convert them. Their attempt is to convert them into full-time kind of members of that specific model.
And the idea is like every single spot that's unfilled is basically money left on the table, right? And what we offer them is the ability to post their spots. So as opposed to saying like, let our users use it whenever you're available, if they're less busy on the weekends or weekdays, for example, really manage their own capacity and handle that and get a profit off of it while being able to promote themselves and market themselves.
And the current target market is singles, urban singles? Is that kind of what seems to be the...
But I think there's a really large market that's untapped in the seniors market that tends to have more leisure time, and also for children as well, because as a parent you would have a lot of difficulty helping them find what piques their interest without paying a ton of money for it.
Yep. Okay, so what do you want from us? I asked
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Is that too hard?
Am I writing you a check? Am I writing a check here?
In theory, like in theory. Is that too hard, or is it, or do you want to sugarcoat it?
Yeah, if I were a consumer VC, I'd want to learn more. I say thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do have something to ask of you guys. I know I'm not the target market or target investment for you guys, but I'm really looking for mentorship. We have angel investors aboard already, so I'm not cash strapped at all, but I'm really seriously looking for mentorship because we have partners in San Fran, New York, and Dallas waiting to help us expand, and we want to find someone to take us from today to that point.
Look for someone in consumer, because I think it's, I would be a no, because I think that it's a really, really busy space, and so you have to somehow stand out, which I think is extremely difficult.
Sure. Right, and I think that's probably better to be left for a private conversation afterwards. So yeah. Okay. Lots of courage here. Okay, number 2.
To make a new business and we talk and we think we can be a good team. I have been doing a realtor website for a few years and made a few money there.
30 seconds left.
Okay, and recently we see the opportunity on the real estate market with a mobile app can fit in to solve some usage case that the realtors and home buyers, sellers, renters to get the business easy now. We published the app about a month ago. Right now we have about 700 realtors and consumers installed.
10 seconds.
And that's it. And we're not really looking money this stage, but we do want to know if we want to grow bigger and how we can do it. That's it.
Sorry, so it's a hub for real estate where the agent meets with the client and they close the transaction and everything flows through that? Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah, that's what the ultimate goal we want to go.
Okay, so, okay.
That's your only question?
No, I just wanted to know what it was. You may need to stand up and you may need to keep this. So, is this being, are you targeting the real estate agents and hoping that they close the transactions and you're getting a fee each time a transaction closes, or is it a community that you're hosting?
We want to do the community. We want to do the community. Right now we are giving it for free to the agents and their clients, and we can provide some paying features. We can develop some paying features in the future. Right now we're just giving it for free.
And my second question is, what is unique about this?
And right now it's hard for consumers to find the properties that's on the market today. We can bring the real-time property listings to the hand of the consumer and to make the consumer connect with their agents very easily, just on the go. And also for the realtors, they can easily log their activities and analyze what they are doing, what they can improve.
You can keep that with you.
So in any of these businesses where you're connecting people, obviously the internet is wonderful for that and it's opened up opportunities abound, but for big transactions people like to be in person, and also if you take a fee, people like to step outside the network. So I'm just really worried about how you're actually going to make money, because once you start charging for the connection, people just use you for the seeking, and then they step outside for the actual transaction. Can you talk about how you do it?
We are not involved in the transaction. We can charge a fee for the service we provide, and we can also see advertisement kind of things on that.
So you charge the listing agents to put their homes on or their properties on the app, or who do you charge?
We want to give the buyer agent, not really the listing agent. The buyer agent say they want to log their activity here because it's automatically, and we have book showings how many properties I can book on the app. I don't need to print out the paper, and I can book appointments through there. So we can makes the whole process easier for everybody.
Okay.
Yes, no.
This is why I don't.
Feedback.
This is why I don't do consumer. It's too difficult. I'm sure there's something unique in there. I didn't hear it, therefore I wouldn't pursue it.
I think you have to refine the model and the pitch a little bit.
Okay, can we get coffee? Who's number 3?
Timeline that you go by.
So the question is when you are investing in a company, do you look at exit strategy? Do you look at the companies that may buy the company, I guess, as you're investing or before you're investing? The answer is yes. I think for sure you know, as in the venture capital world, you have to sell the companies. You know, you've taken other people's money. You said we're going to invest it, and we're going to give it back to you with a return. And so there's by definition a need to create that liquidity in the company. So you are looking to and having an active discussion with the management team and the other shareholders about ultimately, you know, that's where this is going to go. And I guess the thing that I would say, and Rob has far more experience, so you should really talk on the topic, is, you know, you never know where things are going to go. And so you identify where the strategy looks like it's going, who the relevant potential players are, what are the things that need to be true for those players to be really, really relevant, and maybe that's part of your business plan to get there. But also, business is an evolving sport, and new things happen and new things change, and you discover things, and so you can't really have a plan and never really revisit it. So I think you have to do some planning and some thinking about it, but it can't really be the be-all and end-all from the beginning.
You absolutely have to think about the exit. But in my view, that's not the CEO's responsibility, it's not the founder's responsibility. The founder's responsibility is to build a great business. One that is successful, that has options. Okay, you want options. You want funding options, you want exit options, you want strategic options. That's your job. And you will work with your board to fine-tune your strategy to the optimal exit at the right time. So that may end up being that, hey, I serve a product gap for IBM. I should be partnering with IBM sooner rather than later, so they identify the gap and they want to buy us. That could be the option. But really, you know, in the absence of having something specific like that, your job is to build a business, one that can possibly go public. So hire the right people, grow it as fast as you can, hit your milestones, and the exit options will then avail themselves. And then you have decisions to make.
Actually, it's just a continuation on that exit point. Just some background. I work for a company that is publicly listed, so we use public money, which is essentially perpetual. I guess it speaks to the LPGP structure where, as you mentioned, you actually have to return the money within a specific period of time where not necessarily is aligned with when is the best time for the company to be exiting. Does that create maybe kind of an unnatural tension between the investor and the management team to sort of say, hey, you know, where do we want to take this? And, you know, let's say, you know, it's time for you to return the money. And it's not time for the company to be exited. What happens?
So the question is does the structure of funds, which both of us are part of, is that come in conflict with the intention of companies at times in terms of exit and liquidity and looking for time to exit? I think that's the nature of the question. You know, I think the answer is yes and maybe. And it depends on the situation. So certain situations, that may be an issue. Often it's not, and often there's alternatives that can happen. So, you know, what happens is, you know, and this happens a lot at the growth stage, is that there are early investors who've been in for a while. They've grown a company to a certain stage, and we're now going to do an investment. and they are seeking liquidity for themselves. And so some of our investment is used to go on the balance sheet of the company, and some of it is used to buy other shareholders out of their positions. So, I think if a company is growing and is doing well, it has options. And so with options, you can solve certain problems. But, I also do think that there are situations for sure where having and I think it's very dependent on the business, where having a time and a need to get liquidity can be at odds with the company, and that creates a lot of tension, and that's unnatural. So in those situations, it'd be better to not have that tension.
Yeah, I agree. That it's going to happen. I'll tell you where the exceptions to that are. If you've got a company with a lot of upside and growing rapidly, and you're at the end of your fund life, we would go back to our limited partners and say, this is not the right time to sell the company. And then they would hopefully give us the extension to run the fund, or give you at least a couple of years to run that company to its natural exit. You don't want to force an exit because it doesn't optimize it, and so you have to look at how much upside there is.
Definitely, sorry, just a comment really. I just sometimes I talk to my boss, and it seems like he's quite fond of the idea of using public money to fund private deals. I mean, actually, the opposite is happening right now. I engage in that discussion with him all the time, where you see companies like Uber, where they're big enough for IPOs, but really they're doing increasingly bigger private runs. It's the opposite is happening, but at the same time, public market is perpetual, right? Perpetual money is good for the company.
Public markets are always going to be there. It's not perpetual money. IPO windows close. Look at China today. There's very little new money going into the market. So yes, but a more public market will always be there. Whether or not there's an M&A market or an IPO market, I don't know. You need to, from a perspective of Uber, the question for them is, why do we want to be public? We are growing so fast and not profitable. Why do we want to be under the scrutiny of public investors who demand that we are profitable? So that's a strategic decision, and once again, to the gentleman behind you, that exit discussion is a discussion of a board to determine what the right strategy is, including the founders of the company.
Last question.
Take them both.
Sure. Okay. 2.
So you mentioned that a company with 1 million or 10 million isn't really a business. I think that's fair. But at the very least, a company with 1 million in sales or 10 million in sales has a tracking history, has clients. So what would compel you to invest in a company that's pre-revenue generating at all? They don't have a client base, they don't have any revenues at all, but you said there's still situations where you would invest in a pre-revenue company. What are some of the levers that would cause you to do that? They have no tracking history whatsoever.
So a $1 million or $10 million company, in the sense that we talked, it may be a company, but may not be venture financed.
Right.
Okay, so you can still make a good living with a $10 million company. In our case, as an early stage investor, for us to do a pre-revenue deal, it has to be compelling. So it has to be a space that we know extremely well and understand what your differentiator is, or a team that we know very well and understand that they can build that. So it is our expertise that determines whether or not we're prepared to do that. If we're not knowledgeable about the market or don't really know the team, it's gambling.
Yeah.
Okay. So that but if as a seed investor, it may be fine because you're making 40 investments, 50 investments out of a fund. We're not.
Last question.
Can you explain to us what the process is looking for new LP? How do you select for them, and perhaps building relationships within the long run?
The question is how do we work with LPs? How do we select them? How do we fundraise from them? Exactly the same way as an entrepreneur does with us. So fortunately, that's the answer. We cultivate relationships with those sources of capital, in many cases long before we need it. And we go through a diligence process just like we put our CEOs through. They look at every single one of our investments, our roles on those investments, how we work with our portfolio companies, what our network is, what our returns are, why we achieve those returns, what our contribution to those returns are. There's a lot of work that goes into that. And while, you know, we have thousands of entrepreneurs to pick from, they have thousands of funds to pick from. And so they need to pick the same winners in the same way that we need to pick ours. And so while the questions they ask is different, the process is generally the same. Cultivate relationships, warm introductions, build a differentiated business case with a proven track record, and hit your milestones.
Yeah, they're illiquid markets, so you have to, you have to do all those things just like markets.
Great. Okay, thank you. We have the venue until about 10:30, 11ish. So feel free to grab beers, food. Can we give a round of applause for Marc? And they're gonna stay behind for a little bit, right? So feel free to line up and just talk to them. Thank you for coming.